A young man resets his game from a VR capsule. The game, Graduate the Academy, is all about initial luck. He smirks, dismissing news reports of death from restarting. He's already done this thousands of times. A brown-haired woman shouts, asking if he's insane. The woman worries about him dying. The dark-haired man says he won't. He explains his preference for strong, one-shot avatars. She asks if a delicate girl character is fine, he agrees. In a flash of energy, he reminds her of her own words as she watches, shocked. He wonders if this is death as his consciousness fades. A blonde girl gasps, her blue eyes wide with shock. She sits up in a strange bed, looking utterly confused. Sunlight streams in as she realizes with relief that she's alive. She stares at her own small hands in disbelief. A tutorial window suddenly appears, announcing a letter from her father. The system prompts her to open a gift from her father. With dawning horror, she realizes she's been reincarnated into the game. The shocking reality of her new life begins to sink in. A letter from her father reveals her new name is Oknoti. Oknoti thinks her new name feels strangely familiar. She panics, realizing her name sounds like okay, no die. Oknoti wonders if this is punishment for her gaming addiction. She decides a luck-based game is better than a strength-based one. To win, one needs a balance of luck, brain, and physical strength. But among them all, luck is the most crucial stat. She sits on her bed, recalling that re-rolling was to improve luck. She frantically tries to log out and call up a status screen. When nothing happens, she accepts this is her new reality. She collapses in despair, wishing she'd at least become her favorite character. She remembers her friend asking about delicate but powerful girl characters. Looking down, she wonders if this is all just a terrible coincidence. She finds a sack on the floor, identifying it as her father's allowance. Anxiously, she wonders if the game's storyline will now be her life. Oknoti stands with the sack, filled with grim determination. A character's starting class, determined by their father, dictates their fate. She panics, realizing that getting expelled is something she absolutely cannot allow. She recalls that survival in this game depends heavily on early luck. Clutching the sack, she desperately prays she's not an orphan. Her eyes widen in surprise at the sack's heavy weight. She opens the bag to reveal a glittering hoard of gold coins. A system window confirms she's a noble's daughter. She joyfully celebrates her good fortune and her ticket to a happy ending. Humming, Oknoti turns her attention to the next gift on the table. The box contains magnificent jewelry, potential divine artifacts for a noble. She eyes the treasures with greedy anticipation. She finds 2 items inside, a letter and a small, strange stone. Oknoti looks at the letter with confusion, feeling underwhelmed. The letter feels cold, lacking any sign of a father's affection. She smiles, deciding the sack full of gold more than makes up for it. Tossing the letter aside, she happily hugs her bag of gold. Remembering her father, she thinks his distance was to avoid family disputes. Oknoti decides being distant might actually be a good thing. She eagerly prepares to use the strange stone from the box. As it glows, she recalls it summons a helpful NPC. A burst of purple energy erupts from the stone toward the door. A system window explains the whistle summons a butler, who appears and greets, "My lady." With a sly grin, Oknoti decides it's time to test her new item. The summoned butler formally asks if she called, his name tag reading Max Danger. She nervously asks for his name, noting his classic butler attire. With glowing eyes, he introduces himself as Max Danger, looking more like a mafia boss. She panics internally at the name Max Danger. This can't be good. Oknoti cringes, thinking the game has a terrible naming sense. Flustered, she quickly changes the subject and asks for a hand mirror. She reflects that at least her name isn't as bad as some others, finding it lucky. Clasping her head, she's interrupted by Max announcing he has her mirror. Max presents a beautifully ornate mirror, surprising Oknoti. Looking into it, she marvels at the beautiful girl she sees. She studies her reflection, thinking she looks young, as Max addresses her. Max informs her that the master, her father, wants her to enroll in the academy. Confused, she questions why he calls her father Master instead of Papa. He reassures her she can live calmly here, gesturing toward a shabby room. Oknoti frowns, thinking the room is too run down for a noble's daughter. She looks up at the pensive butler, wondering what he's thinking. She quickly stops him from speaking, sensing his pity. Max pledges his undying support, confirming her suspicion he's pitying her. She fumes internally, but Max confidently tells her to leave everything to him. A new scene reveals a training hall for academy prep. Now in casual clothes, Oknoti follows Max through the hall. A narrator explains that without prep, beginners fail to even enroll. Oknoti recalls her own newbie struggles, knowing 90 of players fail their first mission. She remembers how the game's NPCs could betray you, even her entire party once. Now finding it a funny memory, she compliments the facility to Max. When Max nervously mentions yearly inspections, Oknoti questions him. He clears his throat, so she quickly asks about the mirror to change the subject. He points to a room, and she sighs in relief, thinking it was a close call. She observes him, thinking he has the intense look of a conflicted assassin. The scene shifts to a large, empty mirror in a side room. Oknoti stands before her reflection, taking in her new appearance. She flexes an arm, dismayed to discover she's a total weakling. Still, she admits her new face is actually quite pretty. She turns away from the mirror as Max watches her curiously. Max observes that her reaction was like someone seeing themselves for the first time. She tries to brush it off, but Max suggests a meal, and her eyes light up. Oknoti happily skips ahead, singing about dinner, while Max watches thoughtfully. He assumes it's her first decent meal as a pop-up, explains the compendium system. Completing collections boosts stats, so she resolves to fill the cooking compendium. Max says he'll bring her meal, and she enthusiastically accepts. With a smirk, Oknoti knows that until enrollment, time is money. She gets on all fours, ready to grind some skills. After hiding under a table, a system window awards her stealth experience. System notifications pop up, confirming she's gained stealth experience by hiding. Oknoti smirks, realizing that by leveling her stealth, she can even hide from mid-bosses. Max discovers her hiding in a barrel and asks what she's doing, to which she nervously claims she was scouting hiding spots. With a grunt, Max effortlessly lifts the struggling Oknoti out of the barrel. She defensively insists she isn't a weirdo, but Max's reply suggests he thinks otherwise. The scene shifts to a lavishly prepared dinner table, announcing it's time to eat. Licking her lips in anticipation, Oknoti eagerly declares it's time to eat. She begins to devour the food with incredible speed and enthusiasm. A system notification explains that eating 110 different dishes grants a compendium collection bonus. Realizing that speed is key, Oknoti decides eating fast is the most efficient way to fill the compendium, as Max observes her. As she eats, Oknoti asks Max what's on the schedule after her meal. Max announces that physical training is next, causing Oknoti's eyes to light up with excitement. "Take me there at once," she says with a confident smile, ready for her very first training. The setting changes to a large outdoor training area where Oknoti and Max now stand. Max instructs her to run the track until she's completely out of stamina. Cracking her knuckles with a confident smirk, Oknoti prepares herself for the challenge. She grins, ready to finally test the performance of her new body. Zap! Suddenly, she clutches her head, crying out as a jolt of pain courses through her. She quickly reassures a concerned Max that it was just a minor headache. A glowing blue window appears, officially announcing the start of the first training event. A system message questions why this training opportunity is exclusive to the rich. The system explains that this initial training will provide great benefits for future growth. A small bag of money materializes in her outstretched hand, leaving Max visibly confused. She remembers how she used to rely on this event to earn her initial funds. She offers him a coin, explaining that it's the training fee, much to his surprise. Max politely declines, reminding her that as her butler, he requires no payment. Oknoti is secretly thrilled to have saved money, while Max watches her silently. With the payment issue settled, she crouches into a runner's starting position. "I'm off," she yells, dashing down the track at an incredible speed. Tap? Watching her go, Max quietly wonders if she's ever known kindness that didn't come with a price. She runs, reflecting that in this world, effort is the only way to gauge her surprisingly high stamina. A system window announces that her persistence has boosted her stamina training efficiency by 300. Dripping with sweat but wearing a satisfied smile, Ognodi decides she's done enough. Max approaches with a towel, agreeing that her impressive run was sufficient for the day. He praises her stamina, and she explains it's essential for survival when chasing or being chased. His expression turns thoughtful as she mentally lists the types of quests that require such endurance. Max then announces that the next training session will be weaponry. In a well-stocked armory, he tells her to choose any weapon she can use. She starts by picking up a simple wooden sword, examining it under Max's watchful gaze. She then grabs a bow as well, holding a weapon in each hand. Finally, she picks up a glowing staff and cheekily announces she'll take all three. When Max points out she's holding a staff, not a club, she blushes and insists she knew that. His interest piqued, Max asks if she's familiar with magical tools. Ognodi confidently affirms that she has indeed used a staff before. She smugly asks if he's surprised by her talent, but he simply addresses her as "my lady." Max suddenly grabs her, his expression intense, as he asks if she's done grim quests like drawing blood or taking drugs. She looks away nervously, asking why he's so angry, a claim he immediately denies. He demands she answer honestly, and she stammers that she's never done such things. A sly grin spreads across her face as a particular memory comes to mind. She recalls her old in-game money-making scheme, participating in clinical trials and blood donations. Max questions her staff skills, suspecting she learned dangerous street magic. Remembering her past life's training, she simply says she understands his concern. With a menacing glint in his eye, Max announces he's stepping out. He instructs her to self-train as she panics, trying to stop his departure. Left alone in the armory, she sighs in resignation. She mockingly prays for a street wizard, whose death seems imminent. She recalls being poisoned by a shady figure, deciding this settles the score. The scene changes to Max writing a report by candlelight. He diligently fills out a periodic report on her progress. While writing, he reflects that Max Danger is merely an alias. A flashback reveals he abandoned his true name and a violent past. He adjusts his monocle, impressed by his master's sharp judgment. His report praises her exceptional beauty, stamina, and genius-level weapon talent. He pauses his writing, lost in thought for a moment. He acknowledges her wonderful talent, but a thought gives him pause. But her strange behaviors, like hiding inside clocks, are concerning. He also recalls her odd habit of climbing the chandeliers. He then remembers finding her in a barrel while scouting hiding spots. Her ravenous eating habits convince him she's the strangest person he's ever met. Back in the present, a sudden noise startles him. Ognodi, in pajamas, questions the connection between her dad and Max's master. Her question catches the seasoned butler completely off guard. Clack. He grips his chair, a flicker of tension showing. Now holding a glowing sword, he stands in thoughtful silence. A bead of sweat rolls down his face as his expression turns serious. Wah. As she runs upstairs, he calls out my lady in alarm. She leaps agilely across the rooftops of the town. He watches from below, puzzled by her late-night humming excursion. Muttering to herself, she searches for something specific in the alley. Her eyes sparkle as she joyfully finds a glowing object on the ground. Max appears and curiously asks if she's collecting pretty stones. She promptly shoves the strange stone into her open mouth. He recoils in shock, completely stunned by her action. "Young lady," he cries, lunging forward in a panic. He grabs her cheeks, frantically asking what she is doing. He furiously orders her to spit out the mysterious object. She struggles against his grip as he tries to force her mouth open. A system window announces a random stat has increased by 1. The system explains power stones are rare, timed spawns. When questioned, she coyly calls it a secret, knowing NPCs are unaware of power stones. She realizes Max must think she's a lunatic who eats rocks at night. She decides there is only one way to explain this situation. With a desperate look, she dramatically proclaims that she'll die. Her dramatic outburst leaves him utterly speechless and confused. He agrees to prepare larger meals, much to her delight. He makes her promise to stop eating rocks, and she readily agrees. She inwardly vows to keep eating stones when he isn't looking. Max decides it's time to go back, and she cheerfully follows. He secretly resolves to intensify her training to curb her nightly excursions. Walking back, he privately compliments her remarkable stealth and balance. Max pities Onodi, assuming she has a mental illness, while she wonders why he's looking at her that way. Convinced she needs help, he decides to request an assassin instructor for her. Back at the dining table, Onodi stares at her food, confused by the situation. She complains of being tired lately as Max watches over her with an intense gaze. She begins eating a plate of spaghetti and meatballs. Crack! With unexpected strength, she presses her fork down and shatters the plate. She stares at the broken plate in stunned silence, realizing her own power. Max asks if she's all right as he takes the broken plate, and she nervously confirms she is. Dawn. An image of a supermuscular version of herself flashes in her mind as she realizes she's stronger than she thought. Huh, she says, terrified, as Max points out the massive crack in the wall behind her chair. Max explains that lacking control means she is frail, a diagnosis she tearfully rejects. She realizes that if she slacks off, this body becomes frail, with deadly penalties. To her confusion, Max holds out a forkful of pasta, offering to feed her. She wonders if her dutiful butler is actually planning to feed her himself. He presents the bite of pasta with a gentle, "Ah!" She smugly accepts the pampering, reasoning that she is a frail, beautiful girl. As Max prepares another bite, his attention is drawn by an arrival. A pair of polished shoes land on the floor as a voice politely greets Lady Onodi. A green-haired maid curtsies, introducing herself as Leap Life, her newly assigned servant. Stunned by the new arrival, Onodi can only gasp as Max calls her name in concern. Remembering dangerous phrases from her past, she questions the ominous name Leap's Life. Her cheeks puff out in silent, furious thought. She quickly dismisses Max's concern, insisting that it's nothing. The new maid, Leaf Life, watches with a knowing and sinister smirk. The scene shifts to the courtyard, where Onodi practices swinging a wooden sword. Max and Leap Life observe her training from a distance. Leap Life questions her assignment, and Max reveals she will also serve as Onodi's shadow bodyguard. Onodi's hunch is confirmed as a flashback reveals Leap Life's bloody true identity as an assassin. A memory shows a younger Leap Life being taken in by her mysterious boss. Now a deadly assassin, Leap Life stands ready to eliminate the boss's enemies. Leap Life tells Max the young lady needs an assassin's qualities, not just intuition. Max entrusts Onodi's evaluation to Leap Life, who notes his confidence in her skills. Adjusting his monocle, Max states that her exceptional abilities are obvious. Leap Life coolly asks Max to elaborate on his comment. He pointedly asks why a person of her caliber is working as a simple maid. Leap Life tests him, bringing up the rumor of the young lady's elimination. Max's hand flashes out, forcefully warning her to watch her mouth. He grabs her chin, reminding Leap Life to know her place. His eye glowing with menace, Max clarifies her surveillance target is Onodi, not him. A flustered Leap Life bows her head and offers her apologies. Holding her sword, Onodi wonders if they're fighting and asks to start training. Max orders Leap Life not to interfere with Onodi's training, and she obediently agrees. As Max walks away, the maid watches him with a contemplative expression. Leap Life's eyes glow green as she thinks Max's overprotection won't help Onodi's talent. Onodi faces Max for sword training, while he thinks about the organization's unforgiving nature. Leap Life stands by, observing the training session in silence. Finding Okode hiding in a basket, Leap Life questions her, as Okode internally notes the new maid is both troublesome and useful for training. After successfully hiding from Leap in a tree, Oknoti gains stealth experience, noting the high-risk, high-reward nature of the training. Gagging on her food, Oknoti complains about the weird taste, concluding that the butler has also become a headache. Max offers to take away her food, privately thinking he's never messed up the seasoning before. She quickly stops him, insisting that he shouldn't take it away after working so hard. Her consideration seems to touch the normally stoic butler. Confused by his odd look, she wonders what's wrong with him. As she eats, system notifications confirm the food is poisoned, granting her resistance experience. From a distance, Max and Leap Life quietly observe her. Leap Life approaches, kindly offering a strawberry candy to cleanse her palate. Oknoti happily agrees when the maid also offers her some grapes. She's thrilled by Leap Life's promise to bake cookies for her later. Oknoti internally mocks the foolish maid, gloating that her wages are funding this training, while Max asks Leap Life for an assessment of her talent. Leap Life reports that her progress with poison is faster than expected, noting she knowingly consumes the tainted meals with a high sense rate. Max grimly realizes this proves she must have survived countless poisonings in her past. He notes the presence of another hostile organization in town, which Oknoti asks if he plans to clean up. Announcing a shift in their mission to investigate this hostile group, his expression turns menacing when Leap Life asks what he will do. His single brutal thought echoes against a blood-red background. Wipe them out. The scene shifts to the moonlit estate, marking the start of a new chapter. Oknoti sneaks out of her room, wondering why no one is tailing her. She tiptoes down the hall, thinking her guards have gotten careless. Smirking, she feels they've foolishly underestimated a hardcore player like her. Out in the city, she plots to trigger an event, raid a crime syndicate, and take their loot. Her plan comes to a halt as she stumbles upon a horrific massacre in an alleyway. She stands frozen amidst the carnage, surrounded by bodies. Her eyes then fall upon a large, untouched stack of gold bars. Realizing the attackers weren't after money, she finds it ominous that an event triggered without her. A profound sense of unease washes over her. Spooked, she decides to abandon her plan and head back quickly. The scene transitions back to the grand mansion under the starry night sky. Returning to her room, she leans against the door, catching her breath. Eek. She yelps in shock, startled by a sudden presence. Leap Life is waiting for her inside the room, a placid smile on her face. When questioned about her late-night trip, Oknoti stammers it was just a walk. Just before Leap Life leans in to smell her. I smell blood, the maid declares, prompting a panicked Oknoti to explain she only found the bodies, which earns a knowing smile. Leap Life unceremoniously picks her up by her hoodie and carries her off to bed. Now in bed, Oknoti lies awake, completely baffled by the night's events. Leap Life leans over and extinguishes the bedside candle, startling Oknoti. As if nothing happened, Leap Life calmly asks if she had a bad dream. Placing a hand over her eyes, the maid promises to stay by her side, and a strange power makes Oknoti's eyes glow. Feeling as though she inhaled sleeping gas, Oknoti wonders if the massacre was all just a nightmare as she drifts off. Her glowing blue eyes fade into darkness as she falls into a deep sleep. After tucking her in, Leap Life reflects that she let someone tail her, just as Max had warned. She concludes that the young lady has all the makings of an assassin. Watching her sleep, Leap Life decides she'll need specialized training. The training period has ended. 1 month has passed, and Oknoti sits at the dining table as her training officially concludes. As her increased training efficiencies return to normal, she reflects on the tough month. Glowing with a proud aura, she smugly admires how strong she has become. She confidently boasts to herself about her skills in sword and archery, only to be interrupted by Max. He begins speaking about the world's most prestigious academy, which accepts anyone under 20. With his eyes closed, Max states that even he knows that much about the famous institution. She recalls her past life, justifying the shady jobs she took to pay for training and intel. A map reveals 3 potential examiners, 2 junior, 1 senior. Max asks which one she will see, and a smug Oknoti considers her options. With a confident grin, she declares her choice, the senior examiner. Max holds a scroll as he and the green-haired maid, Leap Life, stand ready. As tickets flash by, she muses that for a veteran like her, this method is inefficient. She insists that for a good ticket, the senior examiner is her only option, and asks where to find him. Max explains he's in the Garden of the Gods, and she coolly deems it not too far. She internally praises the training from her butler and maid, which greatly improved her skills. A grand carriage awaits them at the estate's ornate gates. Walking with her attendants, Oknoti eagerly anticipates the challenge of official class examiners. Max questions her light luggage, which he confidently confirms is all she needs. He silently notes she doesn't need childish things, leaving her flustered. Leap Life cheerfully adds that they suit her well, and Onodi thanks Leap. With a sigh, Max asks if they are ready to depart. Addressed as, "My lady," Oknoti smiles, ready for the journey ahead. The carriage rumbles away from the estate as they decide to take a short break. Oknoti stretches, lamenting that unlike in a game, she can't just skip travel. Leap Life politely interrupts her, causing Oknoti to wonder what she's done. Max gestures toward a nearby building, leaving her utterly confused. He explains that he needs a photograph for a report, and she reacts in shock. She grimaces, thinking how science has lagged behind in this world of magic. Contemplating the costly magical camera, she decides a painting would have been cheaper. Max presents her with a frilly pink and white dress. Horrified, she begins to protest against wearing it. She reluctantly gives in, begging them to make it just this once. Now dressed in the frilly outfit, she internally complains about her new look. Posing stiffly between Max and Leap, she wonders if this is meant to be a family photo. A flustered Oknoti listens as Max requests the fastest photo option available. Looking at the final photo, she finds it weird but then smirks with a sly idea. A mysterious blonde bard in a hat tunes his instrument, announcing his next song. He dedicates the song to her, and a stunned Oknoti finds herself the center of attention. With a smirk and a glowing eye, the bard announces the song's title, Fair-Skinned Girl. You Gross, the unwanted serenade fills Oknoti, Max, and Leap with seething rage. As the horses neigh, their carriage finally arrives at its destination. They've reached the Garden of the Gods, a bustling town filled with aspiring examiners. Oknoti is taken aback by the massive crowd of people hoping to take the exam. The annoying bard appears behind her, commenting on the event's popularity. She confronts him, asking why an adult is here, and he claims to be an observer. Oknoti braces herself as the strange man approaches her. He strikes a dramatic pose, vowing to cheer for her, much to the horror of her and her guardians. Tipping his hat and revealing a fresh black eye, the bard cheerfully heads in first. As he leaps off shouting her praises, she thinks he'll at least keep things from getting boring. She turns to see her maid walking away and asks where Leap is going. Leap claims to have remembered some business, leaving Onodi with a bad feeling. Feeling an ominous presence, she nervously asks if they can all stay together. She clutches Max's coat for safety, prompting a thought about him being a lucky guy. As Leap asks what's wrong, Max sternly tells Oknoti not to wander off, holding his hand. Max denies her unspoken assumption while Leap observes that her lady is far too kind-hearted. Oknoti is utterly flabbergasted by the maid's assessment of her character. Oknoti calls Max picky, prompting his warning not to push him. Her casual words hit him hard, as he thinks of her eventual departure. After getting lost in thought, she realizes she's fallen behind her guardians. She groans in frustration upon seeing the massive line for the entrance exam. A closer look reveals the dauntingly long Academy entrance waiting line. Max announces that he has successfully secured a ticket for the line. Max suggests she have fun for a week while he waits, but she flatly refuses, calling it a waste of time and impossible. With a determined sparkle in her eyes, she vows not to waste a moment. To pass the time, an announcer starts an arm wrestling tournament with a 1 gold coin prize. The announcer declares the true prize. The winner gets her better spot in line. As her blue eye glows, A system window announces a sudden event arm wrestling. She realizes the event was triggered by her own proactive choices. A burly man accepts the challenge first, as she grins at the chance for prestige. Max acts as the referee, locking their hands together to begin the match. Bang! The match begins, and she instantly slams her opponent's arm down, shattering the table and shocking him, while she remains perfectly calm. The man strains against her overwhelming and unexpected strength. The crowd stares in stunned silence, shocked by her incredible power. With a confident smile, she nonchalantly calls for the next challenger. One by one, she effortlessly crushes a long line of challengers. The defeated men are left in despair, wondering what just happened. She smugly explains her strength comes from grinding every possible achievement, as her proud guardians look on. A flashback shows her 30 days of intense training in swordsmanship, archery, and martial arts. She recalls the intense satisfaction of completing achievements like destroying training dummies. She proudly flexes, revealing her estimated strength level is a surprising 29. Confident she can't lose, she listens as the crowd speculates she's a rich girl with special training. The announcer eagerly closes the betting, calling it a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. As bets are placed both for and against her, a huge pot of gold accumulates. The announcer turns to her, playfully asking what the lucky girl Missy wants. She slyly demands a 50-50 split, leaving the announcer confused. With a demonic glint in her eyes, she threatens to report him for illegal gambling, terrifying him. The defeated announcer bows deeply as she flashes a triumphant peace sign. From a distance, a mysterious empty spot appears within the otherwise dense crowd. She instinctively turns her head, sensing that something is wrong. The crowd is left confused, wondering who the mysterious presence was. Shaking it off, she returns her focus to the arm wrestling table. She and her guardians wait together with matching expressions of sheer boredom. She begins to whine impatiently, asking how much longer they have to wait. Max calmly tells her it's her own fault for not holding back the day before. She flinches, startled by his direct and accurate observation. A voice from the crowd suddenly announces the arrival of a new challenger. A massive, ape-like man with red fur steps forward to request a match. He offers a single gold coin, which she ignores while the crowd calls him ridiculous, calling her a muscle monster. Annoyed, she covers her ears, thinking it would be crazy to fight that freak. The narration notes the challenger's immense physique, estimating his strength at 40. Max steps between them, politely declining due to the obvious size difference. The ape-man protests, pointing out that her small size didn't stop her yesterday. Surrounded by a menacing aura, Max rejects the money and demands the man's ticket. The ape-man scoffs, looking away as if unimpressed by the butler's threat. As the challenger finally walks away, she quickly grabs onto Max's coat. The red-furred ape-man approaches Max again, as Max wonders what he's doing. He once again offers the single gold coin for a match. The ape-man suddenly begins spinning, a whirlwind of powerful fists. Bam. He strikes a powerful blow against his own face. Smiling proudly after hitting himself, the ape-man's antics leave Max face-palming while Oknoti looks on, stunned but impressed. Oknoti approaches another man, who panics and refuses to arm wrestle the monster girl, but she insists he's misunderstood. She reveals a gold coin, showing she wants to play a different game. In a quick shell game, she tricks another participant, snatching their coin with a triumphant smile. The ticket scalper Giselle smirks, remarking to his downtrodden friends that the little lady is quite clever. Another woman explains that since it's a 50-50 chance game, even those without strength can participate. A man who lost his ticket yells at Giselle for analyzing the game, but Giselle feigns ignorance. Giselle smugly reveals he was only in line to scalp tickets. The ape-man approaches Oknoti with a ticket, commending her for being both strong and clever, to which she returns a sly compliment. An announcer calls for the next 5 people, and Oknoti and the ape-man head toward the entrance. Oknoti cheers, celebrating clearing the line in only 2 days as her guardians stand by stoically. The scene transitions to a peaceful sunset over the registration building. While eating with her attendants, Oknoti explains to Max that she always orders the limited edition oatmeal, because it's only available here. A cloaked figure approaches their table, greeting the young lady. She recognizes the mysterious bard, who greets her with a confident grin. Oknoti asks the bard when he arrived, and he explains he got there the day before. He clarifies he is working as a bard, prompting Oknoti to dismiss the class as trash, but Max sternly cuts her off before she can say more. The bard correctly guesses that they are there for the ticket exam. He reveals a crucial tip. Listen carefully to the examiner's conversations on the first floor every hour. Oknoti realizes the bard knows about the secret conversations between Michael and the innkeeper, wondering how a newcomer could possess such insider information. With a quick farewell, the bard makes a suspiciously hasty retreat, leaving Oknoti confused. Phew! The bard breathes a sigh of relief as he runs off into the night. Elsewhere, the senior examiner, nobleman Michael, smirks, thinking he's found a fascinating raw gem on his journey. Michael looks over a menu, complaining about the lack of decent food in this backwater town. He questions the innkeeper about mead and shaved ice, only to learn that both honey and ice deliveries have been delayed. Max points out to his lady that the examiner is presenting the exam's problem as a system window announces Michael's ticket exam event. The event description explains that Michael and the innkeeper repeat their conversation about missing ingredients hourly, hinting at a solution. Oknoti watches intently as she reads the quest details reflected in her eyes. When Oknoti asks Max if he'll just watch, he calmly agrees as information about the required ingredients, honey and ice, appears. She reflects that most people aim for the easier areas and sees no reason to make the task harder for herself. The ape man boldly asks the examiner if he can get a meal in exchange for sap from the dangerous fourth layer. The innkeeper agrees to the deal, and the determined ape man promises to return with the sap. As the ape man ventures off alone, the crowd murmurs that he's heading to his death, and Giselle asks Oknoti what her plan is. Oknoti cheerfully tells Giselle she's not giving up, despite Max's worried expression. With a cunning smile, she hints that there's more than one way to pass the exam. Giselle calls the others cowards and praises her spirit, prompting her to ask about his own plans. He assures her he's preparing his own method, which piques her curiosity. 2 days pass. A merchant arrives with a cart full of goods, reporting to Giselle that the order is complete. Giselle thanks the man and calmly begins checking the contents against his list. A crowd gathers nearby, watching the exchange with confusion and curiosity. Someone in the crowd suddenly recognizes Giselle as a well-known local jack-of-all-trades. Giselle maintains his pleasant and composed demeanor while reviewing his list. He presents a ticket to the innkeeper, requesting a dish made from the ingredients he's brought as Max and Oknoti watch. The senior examiner, Michael, emerges from a room looking frustrated and sighing in exasperation. The nervous innkeeper explains to Michael that this is the first time in 5 years as an examiner that anything like this has happened. The innkeeper is shocked to read that someone completed 20 menu items and obtained 33 tickets at once. Wow, Oknoti peeks into the inn, her eyes wide with amazement. Giselle offers to sell Oknoti tickets, but upon hearing they're 100 gold coins each, she realizes he's a black market dealer. Giselle recalls how scalpers were a common, unnoticed part of the game. She hands over 100 gold coins as Giselle asks if a single bronze ticket is really all she wants. Oknoti smiles slyly, clarifying that she isn't buying a ticket. She whispers a secret proposal into Giselle's ear, leaving him momentarily stunned. Giselle watches thoughtfully as Oknoti and Max dash off into a training yard. He reflects that after 5 days of watching, he's still wondering how she plans to get a ticket. While jogging, Max informs Oknoti that simple running is no longer an effective training method for her. He reveals 2 glowing rods, announcing they'll now practice evasion while running. Max promises to call out his targets to avoid injury, and an eager Oknoti agrees to focus. She skillfully dodges as Max calls out targets, weaving past his swift attacks. Watching from a distance, Giselle sweats, utterly stunned by what he's witnessing. A smiling Giselle finds her offer to buy his cooking skills rather interesting. Oknoti boldly confirms she wants to trade the rights to her 32 earned dishes, and he accepts. Giselle notes her dishes are rare delicacies, and as she beams with pride, he asks about her plan for the ticket. She confidently declares she will worry about the ticket after she eats. With a cunning smile, Oknoti proposes they make a bet. Giselle agrees, but on the condition that if she fails, she buys a silver ticket from him. The thought of free food makes her drool. Max scolds her for ruining her noble image, but she protests that Giselle offered the food for free. Giselle sighs, impressed by her sheer confidence. From a doorway, Giselle observes Oknoti and her guardian sitting together inside. As Oknoti eats, Max reviews his reports, pondering which individuals stand out the most. He recalls the maid who poisons the young Mrs. Candy, as the maid offers Oknoti a glowing purple sweet. He then thinks of the butler who throws knives at his charge, prompting him to cover his face in frustration. Giselle watches in disbelief, wondering if he should immediately report the two attendants to their lord. Having finished her meal, Oknoti gets up from the table. She approaches Giselle, a questioning look on her face. Giselle explains that watching her has made him realize how harsh her life is, leaving her utterly confused. He earnestly vows that he, Giselle, will at least ensure she has proper food, clothing, and shelter. She asks if he's scouting her, while an intimidating Max rejects the offer on her behalf. Max sternly states she will attend the academy, but Giselle calmly suggests keeping the offer in mind for the future. A tense standoff crackles between Max and Giselle, with a bewildered Oknoti caught in the middle. The observer notes Giselle seems to have hired a surprising number of people. Oknoti cheerfully de-escalates the tension, saying she'll remember the offer. As the maid carries her away, Giselle decides this is enough for now, hoping she remembers she has allies. A man at the counter announces a material has been delivered, shocking the innkeeper as a large sack thuds onto the bar. The red-furred ape-man proudly reveals he has brought the sap of the thornvine beast. The innkeeper nervously asks if he brought that entire sack just to have a single dish made. The senior examiner Michael sits at a table, looking unimpressed as the innkeeper speaks with him. The ape-man spots Oknoti, mockingly asking the runt why she is still there. Michael addresses the ape-man, acknowledging that he successfully collected all the necessary ingredients. As a reward, Michael presents him with a shining golden ticket. He informs the shocked ape-man that he has passed the exam without needing further approval. With glowing eyes, the ape-man turns and challenges Michael to a match. Michael smirks, agreeing it sounds like a good pre-meal exercise. Oknoti silently watches the two powerful men walk off together. She gets off her chair and stands before awaiting Giselle. With a cheerful hop, Oknoti happily makes her way to the menu on the table. He recognizes her move as a hardcore strategy, not just mere luck. She proudly reveals the special selection menu, which can generate a desired mission. Wearing a dark cloak, she walks away with quiet determination. The examiner, Michael, looks up from his book with a flicker of surprise. His sharp, intense gaze follows her as she makes her move. Oknoti strikes a dazzling pose, cheerfully announcing her arrival. She stands in a brilliant glow, eagerly waiting for him to respond. Michael offers a slight smirk and a thumbs up, thinking her approach isn't bad. He recalls his initial curiosity about the young lady with the two imposing attendants. He remembers a vision of her sweet, innocent smile. It was a bold idea, designed to grab everyone's attention. Oknoti walks into the sunset, wondering why her sword duel menu wasn't available. A narrator notes that her uniquely rude attitude is a talent in itself. Standing alone with a wooden sword, Michael mutters that he's never waited 5 days for a menu before. He points his sword at Oknoti, declaring he won't let her pass easily after making him wait. She recalls her secret strategy, waiting 5 days for the special night menu to reach its peak difficulty. Michael's face is grim and serious against the setting sun. He questions her arrogance in choosing the 5th day, a challenge even the ape-man couldn't handle. His hand tightens around the hilt of his wooden sword. Oknoti confidently draws her own practice sword in response. She unleashes a powerful, determined swing. Facing him down, she declares their duel will reveal her true skills. A slight smirk crosses Michael's face as he accepts her challenge. With a menacing golden gleam in his eye, he warns that it's too late for regrets. The two opponents face each other on a hill as dusk falls. Michael lunges forward with astonishing speed. Okonoti struggles, bracing her sword to block his overwhelming downward strike. He casually parries an attack with an open palm. He brings his sword down in a powerful, sweeping arc. Surprised, he watches as she deftly dodges his strike and slips past him. He twists in midair to evade her swift counterattack. Stunned by her completely silent movements, Michael wonders if she's from a family of assassins as she stands ready in a red aura. With an impressed smirk, he acknowledges her obvious talent. He mentally praises her flawless swordsmanship and clever use of the exam's rules. He suddenly declares, "You pass," leaving Okonoti completely stunned. Annoyed, she complains that she hasn't even shown her staff magic or proven she can handle Layer 5 yet. Michael reveals a rare, glowing platinum ticket, admitting he never expected to give one to a challenger, as Okonoti gasps in amazement. He commends her for passing in every category: power, technique, creativity, and swordsmanship. Beaming with joy, she graciously accepts the ticket. He suddenly raises his hand, catching her completely off guard. Michael smirks, offering to trade her single platinum ticket for 10 gold tickets, leaving her utterly bewildered. The narration explains that most available tickets are merely bronze or iron. A silver ticket is worth 100 gold coins, a massive sum. He clarifies that her ticket is, of course, platinum. She glares at him suspiciously, prompting a curious "oh" from him. Annoyed, she realizes he's testing her and thinks that she already has plenty of money. He smiles knowingly, seeming to understand her silent refusal. Handing her ticket number 15, he explains that lower, double-digit numbers are superior, as they signify a single number holder. Okonoti tells a blonde man his scary face softens with a single word. She happily accepts a ticket from him, offering a simple thank you. Looking over her shoulder, she suddenly tells him to hold on. The blonde man smiles warmly, asking for her name. With a gentle smile, she introduces herself as Okonoti. The man repeats her name, watching her leave before his expression darkens with a vow to watch her grow for 10 years into a worthy opponent to kill. A sword drops into the dirt with a soft thud. As the sun sets on a large building, a narrator notes that another boring day is about to begin. Okonoti waves goodbye to a monocled man and a green-haired maid, who says she will pack their luggage. Okonoti stands alone in the now empty courtyard. She is startled as a voice off-screen compliments her impressive performance. A brown-haired man with a friendly smile introduces himself as Giselle, the black market dealer. Okonoti holds up her ticket, confirming she won their bet, and he gracefully concedes. He asks if she knows the differences between the tickets, and she confirms she has a general idea. She internally notes that in the game, tickets were pure luck, but the numbers on these are a new variable. He reassures her that even a silver ticket is sufficient to take the exam. A narrator explains that noble families often resort to cruel abuse to ensure their children get into the prestigious gift academy. The man smiles sheepishly, admitting he doesn't know the answer to her question. A shocked close-up repeats his uncertain words, "You don't know?" as he asks about debuting in society or attending tea parties. Her only concern is whether they serve a lot of food, leaving him flustered. Realization dawns on him as he panics, thinking she is not a normal noble at all. He views her as a little girl being offered as a glorious sacrifice for her family. The man states that he's made a decision, prompting her to ask what he decided. He passionately declares that he is going to take the entrance exam too. Okonoti is utterly shocked, asking if he'll lie about his age and realizing this event never occurred in the game. He celebrates internally, having triggered an incredibly rare 0.1 chance event. Pondering his motives, Okonoti concludes he's just a middle-aged man chasing a dream. She gives him a cheeky thumbs up, wishing him luck with his dream. He reflects on his decision to protect her and wonders about this strange new feeling. His frustration boils over as he clenches his fist, thinking she must be kidding him. Okonoti stares at the tickets in her hand, her expression one of utter shock. With a nervous sweat drop, she asks him to explain again what kind of tickets they are. She reflects that she had assumed boarding meant a simple carriage or ship. A man with a monocle reveals the tickets are for a magnificent airship. Okunodi is stunned into silence, muttering, "Airship?" The monocled man confirms to the dealer they will be taking the exam together, explaining he bought the last ticket, which the dealer offers to pay for. The dealer clutches the tickets, determined to board the airship. As the monocled man and the maid look on, Okunodi wonders why there are 2 tickets. Upon seeing the massive airship at the dock, she is filled with childlike wonder. She clenches her fists in excitement, exclaiming that it's amazing. She asks the monocled man, Mr. Max, how much the ticket cost, and he replies it was 10 gold coins. Max insists the cost is no issue given her accomplishments, but she strongly refuses his generosity. Her eyes gleam as she realizes 10 gold coins are equivalent to a silver ticket. When Max asks for her father's name, she deflects, thinking he'll find out eventually. She glances at the dealer, wondering if it's strange that she doesn't know her own father's name. The dealer wishes them well on their trip, bidding farewell to the group. Max warns the green-haired maid, Lady Giselle, to be careful, as the dealer worries about potential airship accidents. The dealer apologizes for his late introduction and then spots a familiar face, calling out, "Hey, Abisuke!" The large, ape-like beastman waves back as Okunodi recognizes him as the gorilla from before. The ape-man asks Giselle about exchanging guard duty for a ticket. As Giselle confirms the generous offer, Okunodi is shocked, while her guardians glower menacingly from the background. With a sharp tug, she grabs her guardian's collar, shouting that his attitude is not okay. The green-haired maid leans in with a sly smile, asking what's wrong. Okunodi scolds them for being rude, then gives a thumbs up, praising Giselle as a role model for older men. Her 2 guardians are left twitching and utterly speechless by her lecture. The ape-man laughs heartily, playfully roughing up a flustered Giselle while praising Okunodi's way with words. Blushing, Giselle looks completely overwhelmed by the unexpected praise. A magnificent airship soars through a sunlit, cloudy sky. Okunodi and her guardians stride purposefully through the grand interior of the airship. Max leans down, suggesting a tour of the facilities, and Okunodi gasps in awe. She excitedly declares she's heading for the dining hall, running off as the maid remarks on her love for food. She flips through a handwritten notebook, lamenting the inconvenience of not having a status window. Her notes reveal she has collected 102 dishes, granting her small bonuses to item drops and plant damage. She assures her guardian the notes are in Japanese before her eyes light up at the sight of the grand dining hall. Before her lies a magnificent feast, a spread of countless dishes she declares is absolute heaven. She happily munches on a cookie, surrounded by a mountain of them. Her guardians watch as she enthusiastically agrees to try the other dishes. She thoughtfully decides to use this chance to determine what counts as a normal portion. The ape-man arrives with several plates, teasing that she doesn't know how to eat properly. He proudly shows off his feast, and Okunodi has a shocking realization as a choco chip entry is added to her encyclopedia. A sly smile spreads across her face as she realizes a normal portion is all it takes. With newfound determination, she sits upright, ready to eat, leaving her guardians confused. Notifications pop up one after another as she adds mushroom soup, sushi, and melon to her encyclopedia. The ape-man compliments her impressive appetite as Max serves her another plate. He adds that she's eating neatly, and she blushes, wondering if it's because she didn't have to train. With a menacing gleam in his eye, Max mutters that he should increase the weight of her training dishes. Max calmly places another gourmet dish in front of a slightly bewildered Okunodi. Blushing with surprise, she asks why he is suddenly being so kind. Max and the maid praise her, noting she never complains about food or training and that her diligence is outstanding. At a nearby table, Giselle thoughtfully watches them as the ape-man eats. Max declares that the master will surely acknowledge her one day, but Okunodi grimaces, hoping to avoid her father. His hand glows with a soft purple light as he presents a gift to the surprised girl. He gives her a glowing, multifaceted cube, promising she will be able to open it if she continues her training. The ape-man calls out to Giselle with a serious expression. Giselle questions his suspicion of the heartwarming scene, but the ape-man insists there must be something hidden beneath the surface. A scream rips through the air as the airship is suddenly rocked by a violent jolt. Oknoti clutches her head, surrounded by crackling dark energy, as she cries out against such cruelty. The airship lurches again amidst another piercing scream. Overwhelmed by the dark energy, she again decries the terrible cruelty of the situation. A sign announces the buffet is closed, sending Oknoti into despair over her lost dinner. The maid grabs the distraught girl, reviving her spirits with news of a restaurant that stays open late. Her despair vanishes instantly, replaced by pure joy as she eagerly agrees to go. A waiter presents the menu to Oknoti and Max, now seated in an elegant evening restaurant. The maid excuses herself to scout other locations, leaving Oknoti feeling a little bad for her. Oknoti breaks into a cold sweat upon seeing the insane prices, but Max calmly assures her the master's funds will cover it. Overjoyed, she listens as Max explains the meal is a gift from the master to recognize her platinum ticket. She playfully asks if he will stay by her side even if she doesn't grow, earning an unamused stare from Max. He declares that to be impossible, and she pouts, asking why he hopes that future never comes. He explains that the master has many children under his care, not just scholarship students. He coldly adds that the master has no interest in the untalented. Oknoti then turns the question on Max, asking about his own feelings. The scene shifts to a quiet, sunlit training ground with barrels. With a determined expression, Oknoti practices with a wooden sword. The green-haired maid silently watches her from a distance. The maid gets her attention, calling out, "Milady." She asks if Oknoti quarreled with her butler, which Oknoti denies while thinking she was noticed. She realizes Max would naturally notice their distance and feels childish for asking. Admitting it made her sad, she clutches her chest, wondering if this is how she truly feels. The maid watches with gentle concern, uttering her name. Oknoti confirms the maid, Leap, is also bound to her father's orders, feeling completely alone yet defiant. Leap calmly explains that, like falling flowers, all meetings must eventually end in parting. She smiles warmly, sincerely wishing for Oknoti's success. She then adds that Oknoti is the only one who pretends to enjoy her candy, leaving the girl distraught. She then presents a large, full jar of colorful candy. Leap promises to stay by her side until she eats every last piece. Overcome with emotion, Oknoti launches herself at Leap for a hug. Oknoti tearfully says she's glad Leave is her maid, and Leave replies that it is her honor to serve. A flustered Oknoti pulls away as Leave smiles knowingly. With newfound resolve, she decides she'll forgive Max, all thanks to Leave. She then turns to Leave with a bold new request. She demands to be taken to the gambling den as Leave grins mischievously. Her excitement comes to a halt as she stands frozen with a blank stare. Before her is the entrance to a kid zone for those under 140 centimeters. She looks on, thoroughly annoyed and unimpressed. A sly grin crosses her face as she thinks of a clever trick she calls alchemy. Leave explains that the casino denies entry to anyone under 150 centimeters, leaving Oknoti utterly shocked. Leave confidently declares that she will find a loophole. Leave tells her to wait in the safe kid zone, much to Oknoti's visible fury. Left alone, she looks around the area in confusion. Staring at a height chart, she reflects that she never visited places like this as her old muscle-type character. A sudden scream makes her panic and flee. The source of the noise is revealed to be a crying baby held by another small boy. She quickly dives for cover in a large ball pit. Hiding among the balls, she's surprised when a system window awards her Stealth Express. A sly grin spreads across her face as she realizes this is a good outcome for just hiding from kids. She cautiously peeks out from her hiding spot. She spots two children on a bench and overhears one being called a prodigy, making her think of the academy. The girl, Jessie, complains about babysitting the boy Max, while another girl asks about his older brother joining the academy. Young Max proudly says his brother entering at 15 would make him a prodigy. Jessie asks if kids their age can pass, but Max calls her an idiot for believing rumors. Oknoti suddenly bursts from the ball pit with glowing bunny ears, stunning the children. She sits awkwardly beside them on a bench as silence hangs in the air. She asks if Jessie and Max are friends, but they clarify they are just neighbors. When Oknoti reveals she's also there for the exam, they stare back in shock. Jessie grabs Max in disbelief, asking if Oknoti is seriously taking the entrance exam. Both children stare at her with starstruck eyes as she realizes she may have said too much. The baby reaches out for Oknoti, who apologizes for the intrusion. She offers to keep the baby company, much to young Max's surprise. She thinks to herself that she's mature because she's an adult on the inside. The baby reaches for a green ball, babbling softly. Oknoti holds the baby as the ball in his hands begins to glow brightly. Seeing a muscular man in a fairy costume denied entry, she resolves to eat the strange object to identify it. With fiery determination, she shouts that she was right, holding the bewildered baby. A frantic voice shouts her name as she's shaken back to reality. Jessie and young Max stare in horror, asking if she just ate the ball. Jessie grabs her hand to lead her away. Oknoti worries that Leap will be troubled by their disappearance, noting her own surprising strength. Hearing the baby cry, she hesitates, worried he might get hurt if they leave. Deciding it will be fine, they dash down the hall together. Leave, the maid, stands alone, looking around with a puzzled expression. A knowing smile crosses Leave's face as she realizes her lady is up to her old tricks. Spotting the ball pit, she grins, sensing a worthy challenge. Leave dives into the sea of colorful balls, playfully calling out for her lady. The scene shifts to an airship as a voice shouts in disbelief. Oknoti sweats nervously as an official questions how she can be stateless and unregistered. Jessie dismisses it as a machine error, but Oknoti fumes, thinking no parent would be so negligent. The official leaves to consult with the nurses, leaving Oknoti looking furious. Jessie asks about her guardians, and Oknoti admits she knew nothing about registration, shocking her new friend. An announcement for a missing child matching Oknoti's description echoes through the area. Jessie informs a surprised Oknoti that Leap is searching for them. Jessie declares that Oknoti's family is not normal for neglecting registration, and Oknoti considers the possibility. A dark, imposing silhouette looms behind a nervous Oknoti. After Oknoti mentions her training, Jessie imagines horrific scenarios and begs her to run away. Jessie frantically pulls a confused Oknoti along, yelling for her to follow. Two smiling nurses block their path, offering them candy while they wait. As Oknoti asks about the flavor, Jessie stares at the candy with deep suspicion. With a sudden move, Jessie points a toy gun forward, startling Oknoti. Jessie urges Oknoti to escape as the nurses begin acting strangely. Jessie leads a tearful Oknoti away, who worries if they are doing the right thing. Oknoti gestures for the exhausted Jessie to stop for a moment. Jessie points to a glowing door, explaining it's an emergency escape port. Blushing, Oknoti admits to herself she was just playing along with the escape plan. System notifications appear, awarding her experience points for stealth, deception, and bravery. Their escape is cut short as Max appears, asking if they've had enough entertainment. Jessie cries out Max's name in despair. A magical diagram illustrates the identity registration process, hinting at a singular reason for avoiding it. Max tells a stunned Jessie that she doesn't have to live for someone else's purpose. Oknoti gently comforts a crying Jessie, thanking her for being her first small friend. A bright light shines as Oknoti looks up, blushing with emotion. She resolves that graduating with good grades will solve her family's problems. With tears welling in her eyes, Jessie quietly says Oknoti's name. Oknoti gently pulls her hand away, bidding her new friend goodbye. With newfound determination, she turns to Max and tells him it's time to go. Max takes her hand, informing her that Leap has been worried. She explains she was only fooling around, criticizing the guard's incompetence. Max holds her hand firmly, his thoughts trailing off. Holding hands, Max tells Oknoti it's time to go, and she agrees. A young boy runs toward a girl, calling her Jenny, as she thinks of Max's name. Wiping away tears, Jessie tells Max Montblanc she has decided, and he asks what she means. Clenching her fist, Jessie declares with resolve that she will help Oknoti. A girl praises Jessie's resolution before a man appears, introducing himself as Oknoti's friend to a wary Jessie and Max. The children are identified as Milfe Jessie and Max Montblanc, whose families are noted as useful allies. The man sees the children as stepping stones and offers to deliver letters to their powerful older siblings. Max excitedly asks about his brother Maximus, while Jessie realizes her sister Jessica might help too. As the children run to get paper, the man watches, thinking their efforts alone won't be enough. He reflects that Jessie's courage still has value, as she and Max run with bright smiles. His cynical thought concludes that her courage is a resource to be used. The scene shifts as the airship journey ends, with crowds disembarking onto a shore. Arriving at this secondary exam site, Uknoti, Max, and Lev take in the impressive view. A crowd of applicants walks through a forest, and one boy looks back curiously. Uknoti questions where everyone is going, as she believed the exam site was on the hill. Lev whispers that even the Beastman is following, leading Uknoti to believe the gold ticket holders are headed the same way. She and Lev watch the procession pass by a strange cairn of stacked rocks. Uknoti smirks, having figured out the test's gimmick, and cheekily asks a stern Max if he thought she would eat a rock. As the crowd approaches a massive gate, a voice calls out to their lady. Max warns Uknoti that they cannot accompany her further and pleads with her to be careful. Lev offers her a bag of candy for a snack, confidently wishing her success in the exam. Clutching the gift, Uknoti thanks them both and declares with certainty that she will pass. Watching her leave, Lev voices her concern for their lady's sentimentality, but Max reassures her. Lev understands, questioning if Max let the children go for that reason, which he confirms. A haunting vision of Uknoti running from countless eyes appears as Lev warns her of rival scholarship students. Standing among other applicants, Uknoti's attention is caught by a boy calling her Shorty. A young man and a beastman note her relaxed demeanor, but she inwardly dismisses them as nobodies. She notices the other participants staring, realizing they are already seen as rivals. Onlooking nobles mock Uknoti for associating with a beastman and dismiss her as a common adventurer unworthy of help. Fuming at their insults, Uknoti is advised by the beastman to ignore them, lest she exhaust herself. She smiles and thanks him for the advice, much to the beastman's smug satisfaction. A sudden, terrified scream echoes through the area, startling Uknoti and her companions. A ruthless swordsman warns a downed opponent that he picked the wrong person to cross. The swordsman stands coldly over his victim, who clutches the stump of his freshly severed arm. Uknoti looks on in shock, recognizing the aggressor as Shin from the Eastern Empire. A thought bubble suggests the victim was attacked for crossing a line Shin drew on the ground. A system window explains Shin is a playable character who becomes a supporting character if not chosen. Uknoti recalls Shin as a top-tier recruit as he glances back at her with a questioning look. A system notification appears as Uknoti gets a headache, realizing Shin is a troublemaker. She checks a system window showing her early arrival bonus of 55,200 points, but laments she cannot currently use them. Massive stone gates creak open, signaling the beginning of the exam. An elderly proctor with a long white beard addresses the waiting participants from a high platform. As the gates close, the proctor announces the start of the first exam, and Uknoti and her companions grin with anticipation. The elderly proctor stands alone, looking down upon the crowd of examinees. The proctor clasps his hands together, his expression serene and focused. The beastman remarks that the proctor is no ordinary monk, and Uknoti agrees, figuring he was hired by the academy. A hand reaches for a stone pagoda as text explains the Eastern Empire's lesser gods protect their own domains. The stone pagodas are revealed to be symbols of faith built to summon the mountain god. Uknoti observes the other participants, thinking that the simple stone stacking test is more than it seems. She smiles slyly, knowing the true challenge is fighting off trolls that come to smash their towers. The participants are instructed to hold their tickets to their wrists. A golden ticket glows brightly in someone's hands. The ticket transforms into a golden wristband, a ticket watch for evaluation. Uknoti examines her new watch as the proctor warns it's not a guarantee against death. A grim chalk outline illustrates the danger of instant death, rendering the watch useless. The elderly proctor explains that platinum ticket holders can advance to the final intermediate exam. Uknoti notes the in-game explanation was less thorough, learning that excessive killing will be penalized. She glances around, feeling confident that no unreasonable events will occur. A thought bubble explains that with main and supporting NPCs present, the exam will be fair. Ognodi clenches her fist with a confident smirk, certain she cannot fail. As the proctor announces the start of the first stage, the crowd of examinees stands ready. The beastman asks about Ognodi's whereabouts, causing her to pop up with an annoyed "Gah." The dark-haired boy identifies the Northern Duke's daughter Irene as she conjures a massive ice crystal. A sudden burst of ice erupts from the ground, sending panicked examinees flying. The beastman watches in confusion as participants plead for the attack to stop amid swirling blue energy. A beam of magical energy flies over the heads of a stunned Ognodi and her companions. The beastman deftly blocks a strike from a white-cloaked opponent. Phew, the beastman shakes his hand in relief, thinking it was a good call as the dark-haired boy watches. Ognodi realizes fighting a veteran mage like Irene is foolish without proper equipment against cold attacks. The beastman and the dark-haired boy look around in confusion, asking where the short one went. The two look bewildered as Ognodi's voice calls out from an unseen location. Peeking from a hole in the ground, Ognodi gains experience points for concealment and agility. She stands before her companions, explaining she has trained regularly for such situations. Her two friends are flabbergasted, questioning what kind of situations she trains for daily. She cheerfully clarifies that she trains for magical assaults and murderers, much to their horror. Ognodi confirms she's been practicing dodging assassins and magic, leaving her friend speechless. The beastman and the dark-haired boy grimly agree they need to have a serious talk with their staff. As Irene creates an ice wall as a barrier, Ognodi grits her teeth, realizing they've been hit. Ognodi concludes that fighting top-tier opponents like Jidas, Hector, and Irene is utter madness. The beastman wonders about the strength of the other participants, calling out a name, Songgo-chu. Ognodi gives a cheerful and confident thumbs up. She explains that to complete the stone stacking test, they must climb the mountain for gravel, warning not to take it lightly. Her companions agree as Ognodi realizes there might be surprise events even the NPCs don't know about. Ognodi looks toward the mountain, predicting a landslide will occur about an hour before the exam ends. With a burst of speed, the trio dashes up the mountain path together. As the dark-haired boy struggles to keep up, the beastman asks an annoyed Ognodi if she's sure about their plan. Another group of examinees working mid-mountain angrily confronts them, demanding to know what they are doing. The confrontational group taunts their victim as Ognodi clutches her head, sensing the time is right. A diagram illustrates the exam's emerging factions: large alliances versus lone masters, and smaller groups clashing mid-mountain. The breakdown continues, showing fugitive groups hiding, pursuer groups hunting, and Ognodi's team on the run. A system notification awards Ognodi climbing experience for her prolonged high alert state. The dark-haired boy desperately offers Ognodi a snack to stave off her hunger. Taking a bite, she is immediately surprised by its exceptional quality, realizing it's no ordinary jerky. Ognodi chews while thinking her companion's family must eat very well. With a devilish grin, she thinks to herself how beneficial it is to befriend rich merchants. Ognodi stops abruptly as a pursuing party catches up, though they look utterly exhausted from the chase. The beastman grins and readies his staff, challenging the approaching party to a fight. A short-haired girl from the Estonia adventuring party angrily blames them for the loss of half her team. Annoyed, Ognodi questions the point of their accusation, but the girl declares she will settle the grudge with them. The beastman argues their revenge is misplaced, but the girl cries out in frustration, leaving Ognodi to watch with understanding. A narration explains that the immature youths couldn't suppress their misdirected anger. The short-haired girl looks back in confusion, questioning what is happening. Ognodi calmly holds a rope with her companions and announces, "It's coming." As the ground rumbles, a system window appears, heralding a landslide event. A new notification prioritizes survival over protecting the stone tower during the landslide and earthquake. The rival adventuring party looks up in terror as rocks begin to fall from the sky. Ognodi braces herself against a cliff face as a massive landslide crashes down the mountain. A fellow examinee falls into a newly formed chasm, screaming desperately for help. The short-haired girl and her companion struggle to climb up the treacherous, crumbling slope. Straining, she pulls two of her teammates up with a single rope. Oknoti grits her teeth, pulling with all her might on the rope she's holding. The mountainside continues to violently shake and break apart. Having secured a rope from above, Oknoti's team offers a lifeline to the rival party below. Oknoti looks down at them with a puzzled expression, asking why. The dirt-streaked, short-haired girl asks why they would save them after their cruel words. Oknoti hesitates, thoughtfully trying to formulate a response. She simply states she saved them because she saved them, leaving the other girl speechless with her straightforward sincerity. A member of the rival party smiles, remarking that their late captain was just like her. The rest of the adventuring party looks on, their hostility replaced with understanding. Oknoti reflects on the pure way of the spirits, roaming the world unbound. The short-haired girl concedes defeat with a peaceful smile, and her companion agrees. She stands serenely, accepting her loss with newfound clarity. A party member informs their leader, Miss Isabel, that they are withdrawing, to which she sadly agrees. Isabel is shocked when her companion suddenly tells her she cannot withdraw. Her teammates explain they only stayed out of worry for her and never planned on entering the academy themselves. Crying, they encourage her to do her best in their place, leaving Isabel in tears. The entire Asonia party bows deeply to Oknoti's group, shouting their apologies. A party member begs Oknoti to accept their strong captain, assuring her she will be a valuable ally. The dark-haired boy smiles, telling Oknoti that since she saved them, the choice is hers. Oknoti makes a decision, turning to a surprised Isabel to ask a single, crucial question. Can you cook? After Isabel confirms her cooking skills, Oknoti enthusiastically grabs her hand. Oknoti beams with pure joy, ecstatic to have recruited a cook for her team. Isabel looks on, blushing and flustered by the sudden, warm welcome. With a gentle smile, Isabel gratefully accepts, thanking Oknoti. Watching from afar, the elderly proctor remarks that the Asonia party's future is bright after finding enlightenment in defeat. As the evaluation begins, Oknoti's group, now including Isabel, receives a notification that they passed the landslide event. Oknoti unlocks an intuition feature, resolving to trust her subconscious warnings more. She gleefully celebrates gaining a cook, much to Isabel's bewildered amusement. The proctor announces that 185 examinees have successfully passed the first gate. He reveals the test's true purpose was to confirm self-reliance, which Oknoti smirks at, having already figured it out. The proctor challenges the remaining participants to prove their qualifications in the next stage. Oknoti's confident expression turns to one of pure panic. The reason for her panic is revealed as an announcer declares she is the top passer of the first gate. Oknoti finds herself the center of unwanted attention, glared at by three powerful-looking rivals. Overwhelmed, she shuts her eyes and begs them not to look at her. A formal declaration confirms Oknoti has passed the exam as she frantically tries to explain to the Beastman she only wanted to minimize the damage. Her new friends congratulate her on qualifying, with the Beastman giving an enthusiastic thumbs up. Staring forward with shocking intensity, Oknoti flatly declares, "I refuse." The dark-haired boy recoils in disbelief at her sudden refusal. Her companions, both old and new, stare in absolute bewilderment at her unexpected decision. The brown-haired man asks why they would abandon the young lady, leaving her speechless. She sadly reflects that she has always been abandoned in the past. A painful memory of being scolded for overtraining resurfaces, causing Oknoti distress and making her new companions extremely tense. As the proctor directs them to the second gate, Oknoti wonders where the exam will be. A menacing figure with glowing eyes grins wickedly from the shadows of the forest. The crowd of examinees arrives before a massive, fortified gate. Oknoti gets a bad feeling, just as an examiner steps forward to address the crowd. The masked examiner introduces herself as Minerva, proctor for the Hunter's Forest trial. While other examinees admire the proctor, Oknoti seethes, recognizing the one character she truly hates. Minerva explains the test is a search and endurance marathon, as Oknoti recalls why she hates her. Minerva lays out the cruel rules. Participants must complete tasks while chasing her, with disqualification for low scores and penalties for murder, earning her title as the Sadist Ranger. Crying with regret, Oknoti listens as Minerva adds that they can steal points by destroying timers. Minerva suddenly declares the exams start in bolts, leaving the examinees in stunned disbelief. She moves at an impossible speed, already a distant blur. As the group struggles to keep pace, the Beastman offers to carry Oknoti, who flatly refuses. The brown-haired man realizes stopping for tasks means losing Minerva, as Isabel calls the exam troublesome. He grimly concludes that scoring points will just make them a target for other examinees. He declares they must decide on a plan, and Oknoti quickly agrees. A determined, dark-haired examinee considers whether they should become hunters and steal points. He weighs this against the risk of earning points themselves as the crowd rushes onward. Isabel calls out to the brown-haired man, identifying him as Zabel. Oknoti urgently asks a bewildered Zabel if he has any bug spray. Oknoti dashes ahead, shaking a can of what looks like bug spray. She offers the spray to a hesitant Zabel, telling him everyone should use it. As the team runs through a cloud of spray, Oknoti insists she has a good reason. Suddenly remembering something, she quickly rummages through her pouch. She cheerfully offers a pouch of colorful candies to her companions. The Beastman panics, worrying the candy is poisoned, but Oknoti casually replies that she's fine. Isabel asks for a candy, and Oknoti happily shares it with her. As Zabel eats one of the candies, Isabel watches in shock. Zabel suddenly spews a rainbow as a horrified Isabel cries out. Oknoti furiously yells at him not to ask for candy if he's just going to waste it. The Beastman asks where she got the candies, and she explains they were a final gift from her maid. The Beastman scoffs and runs on ahead with Isabel and Oknoti. A pursuing party discusses killing them, but their leader decides they are merely underlings. The real target is the family. The pursuer Beastman suggests taking the candy pouch, but the female pursuer says it's unnecessary. As Oknoti runs on, the pursuers note she has poison resistance from eating those candies. The female pursuer expresses concern over Oknoti's high poison resistance as an alarm is raised. Oknoti cheerfully tells her companions it's time for them to split off. The Beastman looks excited, assuming she's ready to tackle a task. Zabel worries about hunters targeting them, but Oknoti seems unconcerned. With a confident grin, she playfully asks a worried Zabel if he lacks confidence. As Oknoti effortlessly dodges attacks, Zabel realizes her training extends far beyond mere poison resistance. Zabel smiles, realizing this test is nothing to her, and his worry was misplaced. Zabel cries out with renewed vigor, urging the team forward to complete the tasks. Arriving at a signpost listing personality types, Zabel realizes this is their first assignment. Oknoti frowns, realizing this assignment is designed to benefit devious participants. The base camp instructors announce that the first 100 people to arrive will receive 10 points. The Beastman asks about a specific animal, prompting Isabel to question his beastkin nature. He defensively states they don't have those in his forest, causing Isabel to sigh in exasperation. A spectacled analyst explains that a mongoose is a small creature, with the white-tailed variety being extremely rare. The blonde girl praises the short-haired girl, who blushes and clears her throat. The Beastman points, having caught the blonde girl, and asks if this is the thing he was supposed to get. A rival adventurer scoffs that the task will be easy, holding up a dead mongoose to a confused Beastman. The limp body of the small mongoose dangles lifelessly from a hand. Tiesk, calling it useless, the adventurer carelessly tosses the animal's body aside. The blonde girl suddenly catches the thrown mongoose, her expression one of shock. The adventurer asks what she'll do with the creature before realizing who she is. Recognizing her as the top student, the other examinees give off a menacing aura as she realizes this has made things worse. A large hand pats the blonde girl's head as she realizes she's drawn everyone's attention. The Beastman pants that the little guy is in a growth spurt, while her other companions note he loses all restraint when it comes to meat. The brown-haired man asks if they're really going to eat them, but the blonde girl muses that it's not a bad idea. With a devious smile, she decides they should catch about 8 of them. A promotional interlude showcases several other action-filled series. Standing over a pile of captured mongooses, the team discusses their next move. The brown-haired man asks why on earth they needed to catch so many. The blonde girl explains that half are for an assignment, confusing the short-haired girl who asks why she needs one if she's not a shirao. Leaning against a tree, the blonde girl declares that you just have to make an assignment, announcing she's found one. She proudly pats the tree, designating it a shirao. She asks Satoru to mark the tree with his spear, and he readily agrees. With a powerful thud, the spear strikes its mark. Her companions watch in awe, with the brown-haired man remarking on her cleverness. Satoru praises the runt as a genius of cunning tricks as she applies a substance to the spear mark. A group of examiners in uniform look on with complete dismay. The blonde girl beams triumphantly, holding up her bounty of mongooses. An overwhelmed examiner declares the situation beyond their judgment, deciding to consult a superior, as the girl happily agrees. A profile identifies the second gate examiner, Minerva, as a ranger who values reflexes and adaptability. The blonde girl smiles confidently, knowing the result is already decided while the examiners panic. An examiner salutes, announcing that because clever attempts are valued, all 4 of them pass. The blonde girl giggles happily as her companion warns her not to let her guard down. A group of shadowy rivals declares that this is where the real exam begins. As a rival team decides to attack them, a woman's sword is parried by a spearhead erupting from the ground. A close-up reveals a pair of fiercely determined golden eyes. The rival team backs off, their leader admitting that attacking that group would be reckless. Satoru sighs, satisfied that hiring them was worth the high price. He grins, holding a money pouch and declaring that good booze is expensive. The blonde girl is shocked to learn his gourd-held booze, and her mind immediately jumps to how much one must drink to get it registered in the encyclopedia. She walks on, completely lost in her thoughts. A brief flashback shows 2 people sharing a meal and drinks. A woman at the table slams down her drink, vowing to outdrink someone, before wondering about something Shay said. Satoru tells the blonde girl alcohol is for adults, but she retorts there isn't even enough for her alone. She glares at his booze pouch with determination, vowing to get it someday. Her eyes burn with a fiery passion as she screams internally for the encyclopedia. Satoru's question about getting lost snaps her out of her intense focus with a start. When Satoru points out the marathon leaders are gone, she confidently states they'll just track them. She smiles with a clever, knowing look. The team rushes through the forest in a blur of speed. The blonde girl points ahead, declaring she's found their trail. A blue notification confirms she's found the advance party's footprints, earning her experience points. Satoru asks if she has hunting experience, and she coyly confirms that she does. The blonde girl boasts of hunting people, shocking the beastman, and then nervously takes it back. Her poorly timed joke makes the entire group extremely uncomfortable. Pat. A gentle hand rests on her shoulder, reassuring the startled girl. The dark-haired woman offers misplaced comfort, as the blonde girl realizes they've completely misunderstood her. The blonde girl insists they must fight to pass, but the woman tells her to leave it to the adults. With genuine concern, she worries that her new companion might get hurt. Her sincere care leaves the dark-haired woman speechless. A demonic shadow praises the woman's purity, revealing the girl's manipulative inner thoughts. The dark-haired woman is moved to tears while the girl internally vows nothing will stop her from cooking. The blonde girl, Okunori, asks a confused Isabel to call her Wani-chan. Isabel tearfully reflects, believing she understands the harsh training Okunori must have endured. She imagines Okunori's brutal skill set, concluding she underwent grueling assassin training. Overcome with pity, Isabel resolves to protect Okunori's perceived kindness and innocence. Satoru suggests that the group should take a break. Satoru and Okunori get incredibly excited about cooking the mongoose meat. Isabel sends the enthusiastic duo off to gather firewood. The brown-haired man asks to speak privately with the dark-haired woman, Giselle. He chuckles awkwardly, admitting that she has figured him out. He declares with firm conviction that he wants to help. Giselle explains that since she has metaphorically died once, she feels compelled to help Okunori despite the danger. She solidifies her vow to help, and he recognizes her unwavering seriousness. Zabel concedes that he can't stop their plan, and Okunori simply agrees. Phew. Zabel sighs, wondering where he should even begin his story. A flashback reveals a stern, monocled man and a severe-looking maid. While slicing meat, Zabel's voiceover explains how she escaped her guards using an airship. Giselle smiles, remarking that Okunori is an amazing child in both good and bad ways. Giselle explains her self-taught skills as Zabel notes her backpack is stuffed with useful items. Zabel admits his own humble past as a ticket peddler, while Giselle internally wonders why he chose this difficult path. They both look on, agreeing they've encountered a truly extraordinary child. The two continue their quiet conversation near the potential campsite. Hiding in the bushes, Okunori wonders aloud if the two are dating. As they whisper about giving the pair privacy, Zabel overhears and scolds them to hurry up with the firewood. As the team settles around the fire, a new recipe is added to the cooking encyclopedia. Okunori blissfully eats the cooked mongoose, overcome with pure happiness. Giselle smiles warmly, glad that everyone is enjoying the meal she prepared. Satoru notes the large crowd that is gathered, which Zabel assumes was drawn by their bonfire. Whoa, they are shocked to see just how many other examinees have gathered around their camp. A new group of examinees approaches, their leader creepily focused on the fact that they're eating meat. Zabel questions the noble's presence as Satoru grips his club, issuing a stern warning. The noble insists they don't want to fight, which only fuels Zabel's internal rage. The nobles sheepishly admit they just want to be taught how to make a fire so they can also eat meat. Okunori and Giselle share a look of weary, annoyed recognition. Flustered by their stares, the noble leader Anso pompously introduces himself and his title. The noble's condescending offer to pay lowly commoners for help fills Okunori with cold fury. With a chillingly calm expression, Okunori simply tells them to leave. The team stands united as Satoru laughs and Zabel formally dismisses the arrogant nobles. Satoru takes a deep, powerful breath, preparing to act. Whoosh! With a single mighty exhale, he blows the entire group of nobles away. Satoru mockingly tells the cowering nobles he protected their pride by not letting them use a peasant's fire. Furious, Anso finds a scapegoat, blaming an underling for the insult and revoking his family's social invitations on the spot. Okunori feels a pang of guilt for making the nobles cry. A blonde young man firmly declares, "That's enough." The top-ranked noble, Anderson Pretzel, is revealed, shocking Okunori. Anderson lectures on noble responsibility, offering the shamed noble a chance at redemption. The noble tearfully apologizes, but Okunori remains entirely unimpressed. She scolds him for his disgraceful words, declaring everyone equal at the academy. She then offers to forgive him in exchange for a piece of food. He proudly presents his family's special emergency rations. He reveals a stack of high-calorie, tasty fried bread. Wah! She happily accepts the bread, feeling incredibly lucky. While enjoying the bread, she curiously asks about his family's other cuisine. The taste sends Okunori into a cosmic state of pure bliss. She realizes the food's name, sandwich, is strangely out of place in this world. Satoru and Zabel smile, praising her apparent kind-heartedness. Touched, Giselle gently pets her head and asks her to stay with them. A new recipe is added to her encyclopedia, and she decides to be good a little longer. The group decides to wait 2 more weeks as the forest fills with sleeping examinees. Kaya. A sudden, piercing scream shatters the morning peace. Woken by the scream, a woman wonders what happened. Zabel deduces the second trial must be starting nearby. Satoru gets excited, declaring the trial sounds like fun. Giselle, however, worries about the danger after hearing constant screams. Another companion suggests they should at least check the trial's details first. Okunori smirks, declaring they still don't have enough points. Anderson decides it's time for his group to move out as well. Zabel formally thanks Anderson for helping his group. As his group departs, Anderson makes a mental note of Okanodi's name. Anderson confidently leads his large group of followers toward the trial. Giselle asks Okanodi if their team should also get going, and she agrees. The team sets off through the forest toward the second trial's location. A man in a red cap sits waiting, calmly greeting the arriving examinees. The trial is announced. Retrieve a golden orb with no retries and instant elimination. Zabel strokes his chin, realizing the trial heavily favors larger groups.